6 draft picks, all absolute steals. Brad cooked. But more importantly, Detroit. 775,000 fans in attendance. You cooked. Congratulations and great job. Way to show the world what we're fucking made of. Hell yeah.
You gotta love the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, everyone for showing out and showing out strong. I mean, that's the equivalent of 7 big houses right there, which
That's
is
insane.
insane
It's
when you think about
crazy.
it.
That's it's a huge fucking stadium. We beat the previous record by almost an entire packed big house and Spartan Stadium combined.
It, yeah, it's absolutely insane the numbers that got put up, and that's not. I'm sure the numbers aren't official because of the amount of people that snuck in
Yeah,
and
push
I
the
mean they
gates
stopped.
open.
Yeah, and they also stopped scanning. I know on day 3 they stopped scanning and people were just walking in, and so that number is probably closer to 80, maybe not so much, but could be pushing 825,000. But the official number is still insane.
Yeah. Good luck, Green Bay. Y'all can beat us. But this is the draft recap episode. We'll be going through all the picks and even the undrafted free agents, kind of giving you guys our thoughts. And I think to wrap it up, we will give you some free agents that we kind of like that are still out there and who we like to see the Lions sign, just to kind of completely fill out this roster for next year.
Yeah,
And I think I'm gonna take over the actual drafted players. You'll take over the undrafted free agents, right?
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get started with I think one of our best picks in the entire draft, Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. Took him with the 24th pick. Took a trade up, so we got 24 and a next year's 7th from Dallas for 29 and 73 in this draft. I'm not sure who that turned into being, but I didn't want to keep track of that. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. Well, personally, I don't. I love the player we got. I don't. I'm not necessarily in love with trading a third to move up 5 spots. I get you're also jumping a division rival right there. Um,
I think
but it is kind of what it is.
I think you got to look at it is that we essentially used that third round pick to draft Terrion Arnold, who is probably the best
Yeah.
cornerback in this class. And he also fucked over Green Bay. They panicked and took Jordan Morgan. But Terrion stands at 6 foot tall, 189 pounds. And then we'll kind of go through his stats and then a little bit of my tape breakdown, which tape being highlight watching. Terrion played 25 total games in his college career, totaling to 108 total tackles, 6 interceptions, 20 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. Um, and then just for my notes here, I have lockdown corner, ball hawk, has great field awareness. He's actually a really solid tackler. He wraps up and finishes, and the dude is super athletic. Anything you want to add before I get into his combine stats?
I mean, you already touched on a lot of what he did. I think it's just impressive that he played 25 games and had basically he had either a pass breakup or an interception in every single game
Yeah,
on
that's
average,
impressive.
which it's really impressive. Um, yeah, I'm really excited about him. I like the two outside DBs that we got in this draft, and they won't really have to play right away. And I really like that we did that.
Yeah, the cornerback room is a lot better. Terrion's combine, however, so he ran a 4.540, which is tied for 14th best. I kind of did it based on that's the 14th best time and not doing it as like, one guy has, the first fastest speed and then, two guys had the second fastest speed. So then the next one would technically be fourth. I just made that third, if that makes sense. Just kind of going down in the highest of that amount. Um, so his turn yard split was tied 7th at a 1.54, which is something you really like to see. You like to see when guys are in those 1.5s. He had a 37-inch vertical, which was tied ninth. He had a 10'9" broad jump, which was tied six, did not do the bench press. And all that came out to a 9.27 RAS score. And
Ooh.
if you don't know what the RAS score is, it is the relative athletic score. Basically breaks down all of your pro day slash combine times and measurements and puts them all together into an algorithm, and it spits out a range between 1 and 10, and he rated 9.27.
Yeah,
Baller.
I'm really, really excited about Terry and Arnold. And if you've been following his TikTok too, he's posted a lot of funny stuff and just stuff that's gotten me excited about what he's going to bring to Detroit.
I think all these guys are pumped to be in Detroit, which
Oh
is
yeah,
crazy that guys actually want to be here.
well, I can't remember the exact phrasing that he used, uh, but basically he was like, in one of the TikToks, he's like, "Yeah, I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm pumped."
I love it. I love it. And then with our second round pick, did not have to trade up for this one. This is just for straight up normal. The 29th pick in the second round, otherwise the 61st pick in the draft. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri. I do want to say this guy was probably one of my favorite players. And you'll see why once I get to once I get to my notes on him. I I really like Ennis Rakestraw, and he's probably in my top five corners. And the fact that we got both of them, um, but he's standing at 5'11", 183 pounds, pretty similar to Terry on there. With 33 games played, 107 total tackles, only one interception, but 24 pass breakups and three forced fumbles. Anything you want to add there before I get into the notes and the score, the athletic scoring?
I'm not. I don't want to give away your notes, but he is what Brad Holmes has built this team to be.
Yeah,
He's gonna slide in and fit this culture perfectly.
I
Um,
I had to say, go
Hard-nosed
watch his
guy.
highlights. Go watch them. They are fun to watch. My notes are all caps. Plays like a lion. If grit was a player, vicious tackler, can hit hard, not scared of contact, and you'll see that he can lay the hit stick. Sticky man, and also again super athletic. I don't think the RAS score is very relative to what he actually is. He plays a lot faster on tape, which I think goes for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I haven't watched too much of him, but what I have seen, he reminds me of some of the guys that we already have in the secondary. He reminds me of like Brian Branch, Kirby, um, and kind of just the hard-nosed way he plays. And um, I really like it. And like I just said, I really love the fact that we got out in free agency and signed those two corners, and then we boom boom just went here and got two more, and not even forcing them to start right away either, which I love. I just love what this team has built in this draft.
Yeah, I think these guys are going to be ballers once we give them some time to learn a little bit. And honestly, I think they can play day one. But for Ennis's testing, 4.5 140, so super similar to Terry on there, 154 split. Did not do the vert, did not do the bench. Did do the broad jump, which was a 10-foot flat, which was tied 14th. I forgot to mention the 4.51 was tied 15th, and his 10-yard split was tied 7th. Comes out to a 6.17 RAS score. Like I said, I don't think that actually translates to the type of athlete he is. I think this dude is the shit.
He's gonna be. I just can't. Like you said, Rakestraw and Arnold were top five corners of this draft class. You could argue top three, top four, depending on how you want to look at these corners. So it's and we got both of them. It's exciting.
I
And
love
that's
it.
I mean that was our biggest flaw, and Brad Holmes just went and fixed or got guys in free agency, and then he got long term guys in the draft.
Um, and then moving on to this, this might end up being my favorite pick down the road, a couple years down. Uh, so we have our back to back trade up fourth round picks, which I dude okay. So this is the highest that a I believe an international player has gone, and I think this is the only
Correct.
time that someone has
Um,
traded up for an international player. But that international player in the fourth round, 26 pick, 126 overall, is Giovanni Manu from British Columbia University. Go Thunderbirds, apparently. Offensive tackle. And before we say anything else, 6'8, 350 pounds.
Dude is an athletic freak. I no one really knew much about this guy going into it, but just I mean, looking at some of his athletics and pro day stuff, he's an athletic freak.
Dude, it's insane. So we got 126 for a future third, which in this case, if this dude pans out how he should, absolute steal of a trade right there. I was able to find actually some good. It's so hard to find stats on these offensive line guys if I'm not using PFF, and I'm not paying for PFF. Sorry, but I did find a Twitter thread somewhere somehow that had all this in here. Um, so for his 2023 stats, so these are just last year. He played a total of 502 snaps, 212 of those being passing snaps, allowed 5 pressures and 2 sacks.
That's crazy.
That's insanely impressive. The only notes I have on him is all caps, massive human being, and his testing is even crazier. My
Yeah,
God.
it's beautiful.
So mind you, remember this guy is 6'8", 350 pounds. He ran a 4.9640. This is as pro day, so I don't have any stacked up against anything else here. 33.5-inch vertical, a 10-foot 7-inch broad jump, a 4.91 second 20-yard shuttle, and 23 reps on the bench comes out to an 8.83 RAS score. This dude's crazy. Actually fucking crazy. Anything you want to add before we get into our gadget player, I
I got
guess?
I got nothing else about Manu, but I do like our next pick. I guess the easiest way to put it, how I feel about our next pick is I feel like he's gonna be our next Jamal Agnew.
He is a football player, I will tell you that.
He's a football
Uh,
player.
so for the third second pick in the fourth round, 132nd overall, is Sion Vaki out of Utah. Safety slash running back, but maybe more so running back, even though he played mainly safety.
Yeah.
Um, Stands at a 5'11", 210 pounds. 132. So we got 132 and 210, and we sent away 164, 201 in a future next year fourth round pick. Um, you have anything to add before I get into this massive list of stats? Oh my god.
uh, not in terms of the player. I'm trusting Brad Holmes. I don't know how I feel about going into next year without a third and a fourth. Um, I'm sure he'll figure something out with that. He tends to do something and cook during the draft, so not too worried about it. It's just something that will always be in the back of my head until we get there.
I think it'll end up fine. So Sion has played 26 total games in college with, get ready for this long list, 92 total tackles, 1 interception, 5 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble, 42 carries, 317 rushing yards, which is a 7.5 yard per carry average, 2 rushing touchdowns, 11 catches, 203 yards, which is a 18.5 yards per catch average, with 3 receiving touchdowns. Holy hell, what position does this guy play?
So I said Jamal Agnew, but I feel like my Lions comparison. I, Looking at his college stats, that's Jabril Peppers right there.
It really is. It's the Michigan man who could do it all,
That
except
can
he's
do it
from
all.
Utah.
Yeah.
So for my notes, he's a good tackler that can wrap up. Again, better play speed. He looks so much faster on tape than what his 40 tells you. Um, he's a great run supporter. He lines up there at linebacker, kind of. He's almost like a hybrid safety linebacker, kind of like the Isaiah Simmons moneybacker type role. Um, and then, of course, he can play running back when needed. Now, what's notable is on his top 30 visit to Detroit, he only met with the offensive coaches and he tested with the running backs at the combine, not the safeties. So
Interesting.
what I think is the plan here is, of course, he'll get some reps at safety and running back. I'm almost sure of. Maybe less so running back, maybe more so safety, just because you have Gibbs, Monty, and Netflix. Um, I think he's going to be a special teams ace for us. I think he's the return man in the
I
new kickoff
agree,
format. I think he is. I don't think he's
and
on the
that's
line
why
blocking.
yeah, and that's why I called him Jamal Agnew for like the Lions fans out there because that's pretty much what Jamal Agnew came in and did. He was more of the special teams guy. He was a receiver technically, but he was more out there on special teams making plays.
Yeah, that's weird because so just kind of sidetracked before we get to the testing. Agnew was drafted as a cornerback, moved to receiver, but the whole time was our return man, and at least notably now for the Jaguars has actually played a decent amount of snaps at receiver for them, which is kind of
Yeah,
impressive. But going to Sion's testing here, no, this is with all the other running backs here. He ran a 4.62 40, which was tied 16th, with a 1.6 yard split, which was tied fourth. So he might have ran slower than most of these running backs, but he is explosive. He gets to his top speed fast. Um, he had a 4.28 second, 4.28 second, 20-yard shuttle. Um, oh, that one I did not do that for, or the three cone. Okay, oh well. But a 7.18 three cone. He had a 39.5 inch vert, which was third. A 10-foot broad jump, which was tied fourth, and 20 reps on the bench, was tied sixth. Comes up to a 7.94 RAS score. I think if he tested with the safeties, the RAS score ends up higher, but with him testing as a running back, it kind of lowers that for him. Um,
interesting.
Anything you want to add before we get to probably one of the bigger steals in this draft?
No, I again love this draft class, but I really like the next guy too. I feel like he. I'm gonna say what I'll just talk on him real quick. Uh, our next guy being I'm blanking.
Makai
God,
Wingo.
why can't I find Makai Wingo? There you go. But Makai Wingo, I like if he develops properly, I feel like he's gonna be a nice little wrench into our defense. He's a little bit smaller than our guys that we already have there at D tackle, but I feel like that'd be perfect. You throw him in on a third down, nice pass rush to get some speed in there, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like he's gonna fit perfectly into that kind of role here in Detroit.
Yes, kind of going more so into him. He's our first 6 round pick, 13th pick in the 6th round, 189th overall. But we go, of course, plays D tackle out of LSU. We're the 18, which I'm assuming that I keep hearing things about how difficult it is to represent the 18 there. I'm assuming that means he's a leader, right? I'm not super sure off the top of my
Uh,
head.
I'm not sure either.
Um, Yeah, I'm not super sure. He's definitely undersized for a D tackle. He's 6 foot, 284. And this was another trade up. So we got 189 for 205 and 249, which was our 7th round pick, and one of our 6th round picks coming up in the draft. Played 34 total games, 98 total tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. Here's the here's the real fun stat. He had one interception that went for a touchdown. So he has one pick six for 40 yards. He housed it from the 40-yard line. 4 pass breakups. So obviously he's getting up there. He's swatting the ball down, and then one forced fumble. My notes on him are undersized, but he absolutely runs through the line. If you watch his highlights, he is through that line so quick. He is such a fast first step compared to everybody else on both sides of the offensive and defensive line. And I think he plays very similar to Lee McNeil, just a little bit faster because he's like Aleem's kind of undersized. This guy truly is undersized.
Yeah.
And his his combine kind of speaks to that. So he ran a 4.85 40, which was tied second for D tackles, with a 1.64 10-yard split, which was first. He had a 31.5 inch vert, which was tied fourth, a 9 foot 1 inch broad jump, which was tied sixth, and he still put up 25 reps on the bench, which was tied sixth, coming out to an 8.78 RAS score. Dude,
A-
freak.
is an athlete.
He's a freak. And then we'll just kind of move right along. This actually might be the biggest
Might
steal
be
of our draft. Like,
yeah,
holy
might be the
shit.
biggest steal. He should
Uh,
not have gone down this far. I don't know what happened.
Me either. So our last pick in the draft was Christian Mahogany in the sixth round, pick 34, 210th overall. Out of Boston College, offensive guard, stands at a 6'3", 314 pounds. He played a total of 33 games in college, which came out to 2,274 snaps. And here's the crazy stats: out of over 2,000 snaps, he only allowed 19 QB hurries, 5 QB hits, none this past year in 2023. 4 sacks allowed, none this past year in 2023. For my notes, dominant, all caps, dominant on the interior of the line. And I think he's going to fit into the starting lineup in no time. I would not be surprised if he ends up as a starter without a guy even going down. I wouldn't be surprised if he
Yeah,
fits into the starting lineup like halfway through the season.
I wouldn't either. And what's beautiful about Brad taking two offensive linemen in this draft too is kind of like the corners. They don't have to start right away. They can just sit there and learn behind that elite offensive line, and it's just continuing. So when guys either eventually retire or they go somewhere else, we're just continuing to be able to cycle guys in and out, and just having that dominant offensive line that has
Mm-hmm.
helped shape this team and to being who it is.
For his testing, he had a 5.13 40-yard dash, tied 16th among all guards, a 1.74 10-yard split, which is tied 7th. He's fucking quick. That's quick. 174 for
Yeah.
offensive lineman. He had a 32.5-inch vert, which is tied 8th, 9 foot 1 inch broad jump, tied 9th, a 7.81 three cone, which was 17th, in a 5.4 or 4.53 20-yard shuttle, which was 8th, which came out to a 9.63 RAS score. I love it. I love it. That kind of wraps up all the guys that we drafted right there. I mean, my thought. I guess we'll go with my thoughts, and then we'll go your thoughts before we go into
Yeah.
these free agents. Dogs, 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 dogs. Brad Holmes is
Yep.
a mastermind. Who is letting this man do? Why is the league letting him do this to them? Like, okay, so the Ennis Rakestraw pick, it's the same thing as like the Gibbs pick. You're kind of confused. You're like, okay,
Yeah, you're like,
all
whoa,
right, and
what?
then you start
And
to
then you
think
see,
about, yeah, you think about it, and you're like, oh wait,
it
I
was the same thing with JMO too. When he drafted JMO, you're like, and then you just sat there and thought about it. You're like, okay, okay, no, no, okay, that's really exciting now.
yeah, I no complaints. I mean, I love this draft top to bottom. I think we got fantastic playmakers all across the board, and I think these guys will all eventually start for us. I think this could end up being his best draft class in the near
Which is
future
crazy,
because
which is crazy to say
I
too.
could see all of these guys being starters, if not at the All Pro level, at least fringe Pro Bowl level.
Yeah, and and if this one does end up being his best, I would say something considering how his last three have gone.
Yeah, which is it's great, dude. I want to say, as a Lions fan, I am 22 years old. Okay, I've been through a lot. I've been through probably the worst regime ever seen in NFL history. I just can't believe that this is our life right now as Lions fans. To have this much success and this competent of a head coach and GM duo. Oh man. Oh man. Okay.
It's beautiful.
I'll shut my mouth. I'll shut my mouth. I'll let you get to it. I just I'm happy, man.
uh,
I'm happy.
yeah, I was gonna. I mean, you took pretty much everything I was gonna say, and I know there was people before the draft saying that we needed a receiver and we probably should take one. Even we probably thought that we were gonna take one just based on the receiver room that we have. But I feel like it's not a lack of Brad Holmes not choosing to take a receiver. I think this just more so is Brad Holmes having trust in the receiver core that's already at play there and the guys that are in the locker room already between JMO, DPJ, Khalif, Amon Ra. Like I feel like he trusts those guys that are there. Um, I feel like that's what that more so speaks volumes on, um,
Yeah,
and just him trusting his guys that he's brought in and has continued to keep on the roster.
yeah, and I don't think we're done adding players. I'm gonna have a couple receivers for the free agents that I want to see us
That
kind of sign.
I do too. But jumping over to the undrafted free agents, these are all guys that are coming out of college, did not go in the NFL draft, and Brad Holmes picked up 14 guys,
It's
which is a
so
crazy amount of
many.
guys.
That
So
gets the rookie class of 20, dude. 20. Holy shit.
not every guy will make the final roster. I can only I would imagine probably five-ish make the final cuts, if even when we get down there to the
I,
final 53.
I don't. Yeah,
That's
I don't even know
that's
about five
yeah, five is generous.
because there's
No,
so many spots and there's so many good players on this team already. It's hard. It's gonna be real hard.
yeah. So these guys are probably gonna really have to show out. But starting, in no particular order, these guys didn't really get signed in any particular order. There's still room for Brad Holmes to sign UDFAs. It's unlikely. But starting with Calhoun out of Duke, um, I saw something saying he converted from quarterback to receiver. I'm assuming that's from high school to college because I could find no collegiate stats
Yeah,
of him playing
yeah,
quarterback.
his stats look more like a 4 year or 5 year receiver, anyways.
Yeah. So he played 61 games. He had 253 receptions for 3,026 yards for 17 touchdowns. So those are pretty impressive stats. And I'm just gonna say this now: none of these guys tested at the NFL Combine. They all would have tested at their school's pro day. However, he is 5'9", 186, uh, vertical jump at 34, broad jump at 10, 4-yard dash of 4.57. So he seems like a solid receiver.
It's kind of like
Uh,
your Jordy Nelson, the kind of like route runner kind of guy.
yeah. Next, I'm gonna butcher this last name, but defensive end Isaac Ukwu. I'm assuming that's
I would
right.
say like probably a cool.
Ukuwu.
Cool.
We'll go
That's
with
what.
that.
Yeah, let's go with that. Sounds more like
Uh,
it.
he played at James Madison and Ole Miss.
Yeah, James Madison.
He has had a long college career. He committed to James Madison in 2017,
Holy
and
shit. Holy
that
shit.
was that was his first season. So in 2017, he
Oh
redshirted,
my god.
uh, and only appeared in 3 games. And then, oh wait, excuse me, redshirted in 2017, only appeared in 3 games in 2018. Was hurt all of 2019 and 2020,
God damn.
and he only played 2 years of D2 because James Madison was still or D2 of the highest level of college football, F, FBS. So he was only FBS for 2 seasons. But in those 3 years, he played 41 total games, or yeah, in his time in college, he played 41 total games. He had 64 solo tackles, 55 assisted for 119 total, 32 TFLs, and 20 sacks.
I like those
Um,
stats. I
he's
like
six
those.
foot. He's 6'2". He's weighing in at 261, 4-yard dash of 4.88. A he bench 29 times, and he has a vertical jump of 36, broad jump 911. Um, he, these guys are gonna be hard to really get a lot of information on, but
Yeah.
based on all of that, I like what he's gonna bring to the table potentially.
He's not super
Um,
athletic, but I think
no,
he's got good size.
I feel like he could maybe surprise us and be a James Houston kind of guy where we won't see him until later on in the season if he stays on the roster.
Probably
But
practice squad guy.
practice squad guy, and he's probably I don't know. I just have a feeling about him that I feel like he's got something to prove,
It's
and
the
that's why Brad.
name.
Yeah, and just and just like him being in college for so long, I feel like he's got something to prove, and he's gonna want to prove it
He
when he
kind of
gets his chance.
yeah, kind of looking at all the years he missed, it's kind of almost seems like he's gonna come in with the Detroit Lion mentality, and he probably will impress, and he probably will get Dan's attention here.
Yeah. Our next two guys we signed are both listed as centers. I'm assuming there can be some leeway playing inside offensive linemen. But first, we have Duke Clemens, who played at UCLA. He totaled 26 games started, um, or started 26 games, benched 26, uh, 40-yard dash of 5.11. He's 6'3", 302. Um, yeah, offensive linemen are really hard to find stats on.
Yeah,
So
it's almost impossible.
yeah, I couldn't even find the other inside offensive lineman that we signed, Brian Hudson. All I could find is that he played at Virginia Tech, transferred to Louisville. So I would assume he wasn't really a starter, maybe a spot starter kind of guy, based on that, because I feel like the easiest stat you can find with offensive linemen is, um, oh,
Games played.
oh, games played,
Yeah.
games played, games started, yeah. But moving on to the next receiver that we picked up, Isaiah Williams from Illinois. Now, this guy did start as a quarterback at Illinois. He played 2 seasons as quarterback, then changed over to a receiver. His 40-yard dash time was 4.57, vertical jump 38 inches, broad jump 10 foot 8 inches. Um, bench press, he benched 17. And there's not a lot of like comparison. There's a lot of these guys pro days were really hard to find for some reason. A lot of the schools were not cooperating. But in his time at Illinois, his receiving stats, he had 214 receptions for 2,304 yards, 10.8 average, 14 touchdowns. Um, he also ran the ball 103 times for 509 with 3 touchdowns. Based on that, I don't remember him really playing at Illinois. Doesn't not a standout guy. He's a Big Ten guy, so I feel like I would remember him. But
Yeah, yeah.
there's just no
He's no Marvin
recollection.
Harrison.
But the next guy I do remember, linebacker Steel Chambers from Ohio State. What I didn't know though is that he started out as a running back at Ohio State and then changed over to linebacker, kind of like uh, kind of like Isaiah Williams. He played running back for 2 seasons and then just made that switch over to linebacker. He's 6'1", 226. 40-yard dash was 4.75. Uh, vertical jump 35 or 33.5 inches. Shuttle 4.23 seconds. Um, as is in his career as a linebacker, he had 114 solo tackles, which is pretty impressive for just 3 seasons. 94 assisted, 208 total, 13 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, 4 interceptions. Um, he also recovered 1 fumble. But I do remember him, and he was a he was one of the few guys that I feel like I respected on the Ohio State defense during those last 3 years. Because as a Michigan fan, I feel like the Ohio State defenses the last 3 years were pretty soft. I feel like Steel Chambers, he missed assignments on a few plays, like that Donovan Edwards, one of those Donovan Edwards 75 plus yard touchdown runs. He missed his assignment off like terribly, and that's what led to that play. Um,
Which can always be
but
fixed. It can always be fixed.
it can always be fixed. It's not a bad pickup. I think he could add something to the room. Um, although that linebacker room is already pretty set off, especially if they're not giving Rodrigo that many snaps as linebacker anymore. I don't see Steel Chambers really making the 53-man roster, maybe being a practice squad guy that we keep around. But I feel like he's probably going to be one of the top end guys that we'll, or guys on the higher end that we'll keep on the roster one way or another. Um, Next up, linebacker slash safety, Deron Gilbert from Northern Illinois. He transferred from, I believe they're an FBS school or FCS school from Lafayette. He's 6'1", 214. Uh, they don't really have solid times on his 40-yard dash. I mean, 4.71 to 4.72, so right around there. Um, Broad jump 9.7, vertical jump 34 inches. He benched 14. Um, in his one season at Northern Illinois, he played all 13 games, 26 tackles, 25 assisted for 51 total, had 2.5 for a loss, and he assisted on a sack, so he has zero point
Gotta
0.5
gotta love
sacks.
gotta love the half sack.
Gotta love the half sack. Um, I don't I see more. I don't. I'm kind of confused by this pickup, especially if we brought on Steel Chambers. Maybe there's something Brad sees there that I haven't. Um, it's just maybe it's just to kind of see the guy and see how he tests and plays against the higher level competition. But I don't see
I
it making
mean,
much impact on the roster.
with me in a backer slash safety, I think it's again more so that money backer role versus Steel
Yeah,
Chambers is probably more of a just straight up linebacker. He probably wants to see how this guy
yeah,
could play out in the safety room potentially. I wouldn't think that he signed him as thinking he would be a linebacker, maybe more so that safety role.
yeah. Next, we have tight end Isaac Rex
I
from
love the name
BYU. Got to keep
Rex.
him just for the name. Got to have a funny name guy.
Exactly.
40-yard dash, he clocked in at 4.94. Uh, bench press, he managed 24. Vertical jump, 27 inches. Broad jump, he did not test, or it wasn't available. But I believe he played 3 seasons, redshirted one at BYU. Clocked in over those 3 years, 112 receptions, 1,385 yards, 12.4 average for 24 touchdowns. I feel like that's a lot for a tight end. Um,
He might be able to
did
kind of
Brad?
push James Mitchell for that third
Well, that's what
spot.
I was about to say. Did Brad Holmes find his new Brock Wright, the next UDFA tight end that's going to end up sticking around on the roster? I think there's some potential for Isaac Rex. I want to watch some film on him. I didn't get to because I was just trying to find all of these guys, just stats and pro day stuff. Uh, so I want to watch more on Isaac Rex, but just based on the stat line, I'm pretty impressed, and I kind of like that pickup.
I mean, I see the top sustained speed in his drills is 19.98, which that 49440 does not support.
Right.
So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. There could be some change
But
there at tight end three.
we now I really couldn't find any stats on this guy. Long snapper Hogan Hatton, I believe that's how you say it. Uh, I mean that NFL shows no love to. I mean football in general doesn't show love to long snappers, but just had to shout out the guy for getting an NFL contract, even if it is an undrafted free agent contract. That I mean that's still something that 98% of people can't do. So
Yeah, I wanna point out um, this guy would replace the long snapper Scott Daly that Bob Quinn took in the 6th round. Why would you ever draft a fucking long snapper? Not even in the 7th, the fucking 6th round.
hey man, Bob Quinn was cooking
Yeah,
something else. He was
overcooking.
cooking.
He is overcooking.
Next, we have safety Shellen Garnes.
Yeah,
He
Shalene, who knows?
started his career at Navy, then transferred to Wake Forest. He's 5'10", 199 pounds. 40 time was 4.56. Managed 18 reps at the bench. Vertical jump 37 inches. Broad jump 9 foot 10 inches. Um, over his, I believe he played five seasons. One at Navy, four at Wake Forest. Over his career, he had 90 tackles, 90 solo tackles, 66 assisted for 156 total. He had 7.5 for a loss. He had 5 sacks and 3 interceptions. Um, I have a feeling he plays a similar style to all the safeties that we already have on roster. Um, And
So
just based on the fact that we have taken our safety room is already pretty deep, our DB room is already pretty deep. I would imagine he's no more than a practice squad guy.
I do wanna throw out before we move on. I saw a picture on Twitter of him testing in his pro day. If you guys can find that picture, this dude is built like a fucking shit brick house. Holy fucking shit. This might be the most muscle mass I've seen on a man that is 5'10, 200 pounds. It's fucking crazy. He's fucking built, dude.
But moving on to cornerback Maurice Norris out of Fresno State. He is 5'10, 181 pounds, 40-yard dash time of 4.56. He managed 10 bench reps, vertical jump at 38 inches, broad jump 10.4. In his career at Fresno State, he racked up 78 solo tackles, 38 assisted, 116 total tackles, 17.5 TFLs,
Ooh.
and 4.5 sacks.
Oh, a
He
little
got
safe,
two.
little cornerback blitz right there.
Yeah, he's a guy that might be sneaking around the offensive line, but he managed two interceptions. So he seems more of a blitzing corner than a coverage corner, just based off of his stat line. Because passes defended, he had 16. So I mean, could be a useful piece. Could be interesting to see how his time in Detroit pans out. And I couldn't find any information on Edge Nate Lynn. I believe he went to William and Mary.
Yeah, that's why you
Uh,
couldn't find anything.
yeah, they just have no stats. Um, Next up, we have another defensive back, Lorian Strickland, out of Ball State. 40-yard dash, he did at 4.56. Uh, Managed 18 bench reps. Broad jump, 10.5. Vertical jump, 38 inches. I believe he transferred, but I couldn't find from where. He played two starter years at Ball State, where he racked up 32 solo tackles, 18 assisted for 50 total, three for a loss, one sack, no interceptions, and only two passes defended. Um, Obviously, I didn't watch any of the film. Wasn't able to watch film of any of these UDFAs. So based on stats, there doesn't seem to be much there. I'm assuming there's something in the film that spoke to Brad Holmes and
Yeah,
to bring him onto the roster.
I don't think he would have just signed a guy just to be a camp body, just to, you know, have fun and for shits and giggles.
Yeah. Last up, we have kicker James Turner, who was originally at Louisville but then transferred to Michigan this past season. Uh, in his time, he attempted 193 extra points, only missed four.
Woo.
So extra point percentage was 97.9%. Field goal attempts over his career, he attempted 80, missed 15 for 65. I don't have the yardage on the ones that he missed. Um, and then so for his field goal percentage, he was at 81.3%. The one extra point he missed this year at Michigan was not his fault. That was the botch snap in the Rose Bowl against Alabama. And I'm imagining that's what the other extra points were, because extra points are really hard to mess up in college. So it's either someone missed their blocking assignment and someone got through, or botch snap. In terms of field goals, I don't have the yardage of where he was missing them, but
Got to be
at
farther
his
ones with how
yeah
many
at his
made,
time
dude.
yeah at his time at Michigan, he was pretty consistent from pretty much 40 in. I believe he hit close to a 60-yarder in the first game of the season against East Carolina. He hit a really long field goal in that game. I can't remember the exact yardage. Um, Obviously, we're in the state of Michigan. We all know the Michigan Panthers are holding the gem of a kicker, and we want to keep him here in Detroit. But I don't think it hurts to bring James Turner in. He proved himself to be a pretty accurate kicker, potentially the replacement, and I like that. I like that UDFA free agent signing.
Yeah, I think
So
when it comes down to that kicker room, I think it's gonna be Badgley versus Turner versus Jake Bates. I think they're gonna roll with
yeah,
three going into camp, maybe lose one of them, and then let the other two battle it out in preseason.
unfortunately, I don't think Money Badger wins it. I just
I'd
don't see him winning.
Yeah,
If
I'd rather have
if
James Turner.
if Jake Bates keeps kicking how he's done with the Panthers and hitting those long field goals, I just don't see it being Money Badger. I see it coming down to James Turner or Jake Bates.
I think that's who it comes down to if we do sign Jake Bates. It's worth it to know. So they played today, and granted, it was pouring cats and dogs. He did miss I think a 42 yarder and then a 60 yarder. But like I said, it was pouring cats and dogs. He has played indoors up until now. And remember that before he hit that long field goal, he had not kicked a field goal since high school. So just please keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I think we do end up picking him up. If not, another NFL team will, and I will be kind of sad about it. But I think it's going to be those three going into the kicker room in the preseason.
And kicking outdoors won't be that much of an issue coming
When
into this
half your
year.
games are at Ford Field.
Well, yeah, you have 9 games at Ford Field, and then you're at Minnesota in a dome, at Cardinals in a dome, at Cowboys in a dome, at Colts in a dome, at Texans. You're only going to 3 road games where you're going to be outdoors, and that's the Bears, Packers, Niners. So
In
we're
Niners,
only
it's
going
going
to
to be pleasant conditions.
yeah, we're only kicking outside 3 times this year, and then we'll see what the postseason holds for us. But yeah, I think I wasn't an in-depth look at what we got UDFA wise, but there's not a lot of information on these guys. Do you have anything else to add on them before
Not
we jump into
much.
some free agents we want?
Yeah, not much. Obviously, they're not big guys in the draft that you know a lot about. Definitely a lot of them based on how their size, their athletic scoring, and their stats in college seem to be a little promising. But like I said, there's so many good established players at positions that those guys got signed for what those guys play at their positions. It's gonna be hard to knock off some of these guys like the
Yeah,
receivers. It's gonna be tough. Tight end, it's gonna be tough. Backer, you maybe had a shot as that last backer on the roster. Safeties, again, I think it's gonna be tough, especially if we sign a free agent that I'm gonna cover on in the next little segment we have here.
yeah. Looking at some of those receiver free agents that are still out there, I have a hard time seeing any of the 2 receivers that we picked up making the roster.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But if you want to move into some free agents, I think
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I already know. I mean, there's still a ton of guys left in free agency. I mean, just the receivers left out there alone. You got Hunter Renfro, Allen Robinson, OBJ, Michael Gallup, Tyler Boyd, MVS, DJ Chark is still out there if we want to bring him back, and Jamal Agnew and McCole Hardman are all some of the big names still left out there that I could see us potentially going and snagging to help
Yeah.
fill out that roster spot.
Yeah, for receiver, I think the two guys that I mainly want to see would be Tyler Boyd and return to Detroit with DJ Chark. I think those are the
Yeah,
two that I would want to see the most. Like Hunter Renfro, yeah, but he's just a good route runner. That's about it. Tyler Boyd,
and he's a
he was a great option on that deadly receiving core that since he has. We know what DJ Chark can do.
yeah. I I personally would like to see a DJ Chark return, or maybe there's some untapped potential still left in Nicole Hardman that maybe coming to Detroit brings out of him that we haven't seen from Kansas City, that we haven't seen in New York. I That's wishful thinking. I know he's one of my Madden guys, but
Yeah, that's why you want him.
that's I would like him, but I'm leaning Tyler Boyd, DJ Chark, Nicole Hardman for the receivers that are still out there.
Um, And then I only got two other positions I want to hit on, which are linebacker and safety. So I'll go over the two linebackers I would kind of want to see if we were to sign one. This is probably the lowest on the list is linebacker. But Shaq
Right.
Leonard and Zach Cunningham are still out there. Um, both are really good off-ball linebackers, which like Jack Campbell's getting there. Anzalone's not the best, and Derek
You
Barnes
wouldn't
is
want to
getting
bring
there.
you wouldn't want to bring back Gerard Davis again.
I'm good. I'm good. Yep. Former
Nah,
first round pick.
yeah.
I'm good.
And maybe if you want to bring some more, a little bit more experience into the room, you could bring in a Bud Dupree. He's just a little bit older than the two guys you mentioned. So that's another option out there. But again, he's a little bit older. We probably wouldn't get as much out of him as a Zach Cunningham or Shaq Leonard.
Um, and then for safety, I think this is probably I think it's receiver and safety are the two areas we would actually address free agency wise with what's left. And honestly, the two guys that I would want to see is Justin Simmons or another reunion. Quandre Diggs, come home, buddy. Come home.
Yeah, Justin Simmons would be exciting. Jamal Adams is still out there. I do want to note that. Not saying we would take him, not saying. I feel like we already have a Jamal Adams role taken up in the guys that we do have. So I agree. Justin Simmons, but I want Quandre back. Bring him back.
Come back, Quandre. Come back. Come home. Um, Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it for free agent wise. This team is pretty filled out as is.
Yeah,
It's just a last few couple spots that really need to be addressed and filled out, and even then, it's really not that big of a deal.
it's it's not that big of a deal. I do want to just take note of some of the guys that are still in free agency that are bigger names. Like you got David Bakhtiari, you got Xavier Howard, J.C. Jackson's still out there. Let's see who else. Carl Lawson's still out there. You got Dory Jackson. So there are some big names still out there. I just don't see us going and getting them.
Yeah,
Uh,
Bakhtiari's gonna be out all this year. I don't think he plays football this year.
no.
Um,
Stephon Gilmore is still out there, but
he's
he's
getting
getting
there.
up there in age. He's almost I believe he turns 34 when the season or during the season, if not right before. Fletcher Cox is also still out there, but again, he's older. Um, Same with Patrick Peterson. So just
Yeah,
some guys that are still out there. Not saying the Lions will sign them. Just keep your eye on them and where they go. Potentially in division, maybe not. Uh, just keep an eye on them.
all right. I think that wraps it up for us. Before we end it off, though, I do want to kind of do the YouTube shill here. Just because looking at some of the analytics, actually, we're getting to the point where a lot of our viewers are not subscribed. So if you would not mind subscribing, if you think we're kind of funny, we know what we're talking about, we know ball. It would be greatly appreciated. Again, please comment, man. I'd be asking questions in the description. Please, please.
We ask questions during the video too.
So, we always want to see some more opinions besides just ours. We're not the end all be all. We know that. Um,
No, I am the smartest man on the planet.
but yeah, that's just all we ask. If you're enjoying the stuff that we're putting out, with some of these seasons ending and some of these seasons opening up, well, I mean, we know we got a wide range and variety of what we have to be able to offer to you guys. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing, we got some knowledgeable dudes putting out content for you guys. But I think that'll do it for us with our Lions draft recap. Anything from you, Zach?
I got nothing else. I'm just ready for the Lions. I'm not even the season. I'm ready for preseason to start. I just want to get a look at these guys in game and see what
Hell
they're gonna
yeah.
bring.
Hell yeah, dude. So with all that being said, that's gonna be it for us here at Mittcast, and we'll see you next time.
You're
Yeah. That was dog shit.